Martio here, and welcome to a brand new series. We're calling this one Then and Now. Now, Then and Now is a little show about our favourite bands on their first release, so the debut album, up to their last or current album. And we'll have a look at them two albums, and then we will briefly look how they got from their first album to their current album, and just look at a couple of the significant albums that changed their style or did something that made them change. So today we're looking at Judas Priest. Good band, you know, if you mention say heavy metal, this is a band that always springs to mind straight away. They were formed in 1969 in Birmingham. They're all from that area. I've had quite a few people in the band, but the ones that we all know and love are Rob Halford, Glenn Tipton, KK down in Iain Hill, and depending what drummer you like. But you've got, we've had that steadiness in the band. Yeah, the difference between these two albums is unbelievable. And how we're going to sort of rank them, it's in three categories. It's not the usual sort of thing. You're going to get marks for sound quality, song quality, sorry, the production of the album, and the reception from the fans and the media. So let's have a look at their very first album, Rocka Rolla, released on the 6th of September 1974. Produced by Roger Bain, who, if you remember, who was the producer on the first three Black Sabbath albums. And the lineup on this band, for this album, was Rob Halford on vocals and harmonica, KK Downing on guitars, Glenn Tipton on guitars and synthesizers, Iain Hill on the bass, and John Hinch on the drums. The only album that featured John Hinch. And let's have a look at the how it was put together. Basically, this album was recorded as I were playing it live. So basically, no one just recorded parts. Everybody just walked in the studio, plugged their instruments in, and went. It's an indie. It's got some good songs on it. It's got some bad songs on it. But one of the things that they did do, they wanted to put a track on called Whiskey Woman, which was a crowd favourite when they gigged, but Bain said no. And there you go. He didn't want that on there. So let's just have a look at the tracks on this album. It opens up with a track called One for the Road. This is very basic, nice guitars in it and bass, but it just doesn't sound like, obviously, Judas Priest. Sounds like it's a good rock track, but not a metal track. Then we got the title track, Rocka Rolla. This does show some potential. There's a bit where the Halford's vocal was terrific in this. And then it's the first time you hear that twin guitar going, and you know, you could, when you listen to it now, you go, yeah, you can start seeing where they wanted to go. Then there's a little short thing called Winter. It's got some nice guitar in it. Then Deep Freeze, it's another little track. It's again the twin guitars working together, quite good actually. Winter Retreat. Those metal riffs are just coming in. They're heavy, but they're not Priest heavy, as I call it. But it's there. Like Cheetah. This is very, very much in the same thing as Exciter. But what it was a bit weird is hearing harmonica on it. But again, it was a faster song, and you could just see that, yeah, this is where we're going. Then like Never Satisfied. Again, it's there. But what the trouble with this and the production, which we'll go into, there was a lot of hiss on it, and it just didn't, bit tinny in places. So it's really spoilt it to be a cracking track. Then Run of the Mill. This is the first writing credit for Glenn Tipton, because by the time he joined, all the songs were done apart from this one. This is a good track. It's an early runner of Victims of Changes. Really good track. Then it's Dying to Meet You. It's alright. Doesn't do much, and hence why I don't think they never ever played it live. Then we have Caviar and Meths. It's an instrumental. This is more proggy than rock, metal. They could have gone down that road. I think they'd have been good at it as well. Then the album ends up with Diamonds and Rust, the Joe Baez cover. Very popular song still today, and they do play it now and again. So let's have a look at it in an analytical way. Song quality. There's some good songs on here. Very thought out. Arrangements, how they did it, were very good. Some nice work. The words are good. But what lacks this down is the production. Considering that Bain had produced Sabbath's first 3 albums, you thought that he'd make a better job of this, but he didn't. You know, it does. It's just very lackluster in places. The reception from the fans, it basically flopped, and the band were in financial difficulties. They nearly didn't carry on. But so we'll have a look and give it marks. So song quality, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5, because that's the best. The songs are there and the songs are good. It'd be nice to see what would if they re-recorded this album and see what it would be like then. Production, I'm going to give it 3 out of 10, because it just didn't really do anything. It's a shame, and I did expect more from Mr. Bain on that one. And reception, I'll give it 2 out of 5, because it just was not received very well. So it gives us a RTO combined total ranking of 9 out of 10. It's a shame, because it's an album that's forgotten about, but you could tell that these were going to be a big band just by listening to a few tracks. Okay then, let's move on. 44 years to their 18th album, released in 2018, Firepower. Producer on this was Tom Allen. It's the first time he'd actually produced an album for them since Ram It Down in 1988. Great album this is. It's got Andy Sneap, who was helping with engineering and production, and the band was Rob Halford, Glenn Tipton, Richie Faulkner, who had replaced KK, Ian Hill as ever on the bass, and Scott Travis on the drums. First track, opening track, title track, Firepower. God, this is heavy. This is a really good track. I do like that. Then we get Lightning Strikes, the riffs, and Halford's voice on this album is absolutely out the top drawer. Then we get Evil Never Dies. That's a really good track. It's got that real definition of priest. Never the Heroes, again, them great riffs are there. Necromancer, so heavy and a killer vocal. Children of the Sun, another great priest song. Hankers back to the days of when they were at their height. This is just terrific. Then we get a little short instrumental called Guardians. It's just, I think it's just Glenn and Richie, and someone's playing a bit of keyboard, and then that goes in straight into what's my favourite track off the album, Rising from Ruins. The heavy track, the heavy riffs, the vocal, it's just one of the great classic Priest longer songs. Flamethrower, another awesome track. Heavy as You Like. Spectre, really, really heavy. Traitors Gate, classic Priest again. No Surrender, bit of a filler track. And the Lone Wolf has got nice solos. Sea of Red is a bit of a Loch Ness 2 sort of track, but not as long. On the whole, this was probably their best album for a long time. I would say it's their best album since Painkiller. I think a lot to do with that is they've got Tom Allen back at the reins. He's a very good producer. He did produce a lot of their albums, and the media loved it, and the fans loved it. And then along came COVID, so it didn't get the tour it really deserved. So song quality, the song quality on this album is out the top drawer. Couple of tracks that, I mean, like No Surrender and Sea of Red are not particularly great. Production wise, superb. Tom Allen is a great producer, and Andy Sneap is a terrific engineer. And the reception, of course, they loved it. So on mark, song quality, it gets 4 out of 5 because the songs are there. Production gets 5 out of 5 because it is a well produced album, and it's actually, they've gone away from being really heavy and they've gone more back to the classic Priest sound. As much as I love their really heavy fast stuff, this is proper. This is what I call proper Priest again. And the reception, everyone seemed to love it. Even I love this one. It's my favourite album of the newer ones. So I give it 5. So it gets an RTO ranking of 14. Terrific album. So let's see how they went from this tinny thing to this absolute corker of a latest album. Well, a lot to do with that is Sad Wings of Destiny, I think, second album, because the soundtrack changed completely. They had a different producer, Jeffrey Calvert and Max West, and the band, and it produced songs like Victims of Changes, The Ripper, Deceiver, Tyrant, and it was a proper heavy metal album, and it's what we started to get used to. And they continue this on through Sin After Sin, Stained Class, and Killing Machine. And then in 1980 British Steel came out. It was the first time that Tom Allen had produced an album. Dave Holland was on the drums by then, so you've got this classic lineup just on its urge. And of course British Steel is one of them essential heavy metal albums, and this album actually defined the word heavy metal, I think. You've got some great tracks on here. You've got Breaking the Law, you've got Rapid Fire, Metal Gods, Grinder, United, Living After Midnight, quintessential rock songs, metal songs, sorry, more metal. Then you get 3 songs are probably the weakest ones on the album. You Don't Have to Be Old to Be Wise, The Raging Stealer. But it was, I think everybody had that album, it's a landmark album. Then they went on to their really big success, commercially, Point of Entry from 81, Screaming for Vengeance 82, which is their best-selling album. Defenders of the Faith out in 1984. Then we get Turbo from 86, and it's a Marmite album. You either love it or hate it. I actually like it. Then you get Ram It Down, and it's probably one of their worst albums. I reckon that's worse than Rocka Rolla. Tom Allen produced it, but it was that 80s sound. The drums were all over the place, and Dave Holland just couldn't cope with the heaviness. So the next album that's a significant in their career was 1990's Painkiller. Scott Travis came in on drums. They had Chris Tangeries producing this with the band, and this is the sound totally changed. I saw them on this tour, and they were how loud. I mean, I saw them in Aston Villa Leisure Centre, so it wasn't a very big venue, and my ears for days. But this album, of course, produced some great tracks, and you've got Painkiller. I love that track. You've got Leather Rebel, All Guns Blazing, Touch of Evil, Battle Hymn. Again, it was a really, really good album, and it just changed their direction again into that more heavier sound. Then obviously we get the Ripper Evans years, Jugulator 97 and Demolition. They sort of went too heavy for me. I've got the albums, and out the two, Demolition's the better. Then of course Rob came back. They come back with Angel of Retribution. Was alright. Then the ill-fated Nostradamus. Redeemer of Souls from 2014, they nearly got it right. They were not far off it, and then when they brought out Firepower, they hit the nail on the head. I still think Rob's still got one of the best voices in metal. It hasn't changed that much, but the priest of one of these bands, they've changed their music to suit his style. Now, if you watch, if you're going to watch the live stream at 7 PM tonight, or if you watch the live stream on the thing, because I'm going to talk about bands that I don't like so much now, and there's one of the reasons is the singing. But I hope you've enjoyed that one. It's a little bit different from what we normally do, but it's just a refreshing change, just to talk about not the obscure, but people do forget people's debut albums, so this is the reason we're doing it. Next Thursday we'll be looking at ZZ Top. Again, their sound changed through the years. Don't forget there's a live stream tonight at 7 PM. There's a poll going on Twitter to choose the classic album for a week on Monday. It's between Atom Heart, Mother and the first Queen album, and when I checked just before I did this, Queen is winning at the moment. So you Pink Floyd fans, if you want me to rank Atom Heart, Mother, get voting. Vote closes at 6 o'clock on Twitter, but during the live stream I will put the poll up and you can vote then. I'll announce the winner 8 PM on Monday evening. I'll be back later with an album cover ranking, and we're looking at Roger Dean's Yes artwork. So for now, bye and take care.